All right, folks, we're back. Um, this time on the game we're making in Angular 4, we're going to focus on we're going to zoom in on one component, and we're going to focus on the TS file. Actually, let me refresh that so it says .ts. Ding, the TS file and the HTML file. Those are the two big parts of a component. One is where it's displayed, and one is where the thinking happens. So let's get into it. Here we are. Okay, so we made these components last time, but there's the answer, the board, which we're pretty much done with, the guesses, and the peg tray. And we made an HTML part, and there's this TS file. It auto-generated this file for us, which was very nice of it. This part was this. It says when you use something called call me the app peg tray. Remember that was the HTML tag it created for us. But in here, export class, blah blah blah. This is where the logic goes in between this and this, and they're giving us two things in here. They're giving us a constructor, and they're giving us on init. And ng on init means when this loads up, do this. We may or may not have anything to do in there. But first, let's think about what our HTML is going to look like. And to do that, I'm going to cheat and look at the last one. We're making this thing right here. We got 6 colors. I don't think we're going to have the same colors because remember I copied that CSS file. I know purple was in there, so we're gonna use those colors. So let's go in here. In fact, let me get a peek at that CSS file. That was right here. We got red, blue, green, yellow, black, purple. And I'm totally going to remember that because I'm going to make it into an array. Tab, let color array equal. This is how you declare an array. Red, blue, green, orange, red. I already said red. Dang it, I forgot. Red, blue, green, yellow, black, purple. Dang it. Right here. Red, blue, green, yellow, black, purple. Okay. See all these red underlines? That's telling me there's something wrong with this. Well, what it is these are all strings. So if you double click them, you can put single or double quotes or whatever, even the backticks around them. It doesn't like this let right here. Well, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move this from before the constructor. This isn't going to get rid of that red line. Command V. I like putting these things right here. And we are in TypeScript, not JavaScript. So for right now, I'm going to leave it like that. TypeScript is JavaScript, but it's a typed language. So I just declared it, but I could also say I could bring it into existence without defining it. I can say call array is going to be an array of strings without actually saying what it is. And if you're really used to JavaScript, then you might think, why would I do that? But there's a lot of languages where you have to do that, and they make fun of JavaScript because it doesn't do that. I kind of like the way JavaScript does it. Okay, so here's this array. Later, probably next video, I'm going to move this out of here, out of this class, out of this file. We're going to make a service that does nothing but manage our variables that are used between components. Because imagine maybe my answer needs these components as well, or some other thing needs this exact array. I could recreate it in every component, or best practices, I could put it in one spot where they can all access it. I guess that's best practices. That's what I do, so I guess that means it's best practices. That's what everyone else thinks. Okay. What were we doing? We were making this HTML. Peg tray works. That's not what we're doing. Okay. This is wrapping that. I'm going to give it one more class. Flexor. Okay. What does Flexor do? It turns this, it was one of my CSS classes, it turns this div into a flex container. One of the properties of a flex container is that it makes, divs, instead of they stack up, it can make them side by side if they're skinny enough. So I need 6 divs. So you think I'd copy and paste this 6 times? We are using Angular 4, so we're going to do something cooler than that. In fact, I'm going to go like that. We're going to use ng4, and I know it's bound to happen. In Angular.js, the version before Angular2, which you would call Angular1, they use something called ng-repeat, and I'm going to confuse them. By the way, just the history of Angular. Angular 2 follows Angular 1, but Angular 1 and Angular is not backwards compatible for Angular 2. Angular 2 is a different framework than Angular 1. That was a dumb idea on Angular's part. They took a lot of flack for it. So now they call Angular 1, they call it Angular.js. So if you hear someone say Angular.js versus Angular, it's 2 different frameworks. It might as well be React and Ember. But they use a lot of the same things that look the same. Some of them don't, like I said, ng4 and ng-repeat. Okay, so this is going to be color in color array. So I already wish I had called my color array. I wish I had called it colors. So I'm going to call it that. Colray. So those are my colors. Okay. HTML equals color and color array. And if I have a syntax problem, it is, I will just Google it. We have that technology. Class, we're going to call it a peg. And let's call it a peg. Actually, we're going to have big pegs and little pegs. We use the little pegs to grade, so I'm just going to call it a guess peg. A guess peg, and we're going to have to give that some CSS. Let's just skip over and do that. Remember, this CSS file is for everything. This CSS file is just for what we have right here. .guess -peg. Is that what I called it? I'm going to put box me in there so I don't have to box me. I'm going to put circle in there. That's going to turn it into a circle. But I'm going to give it a width of 16%. And I'm going to say box sizing border box. And a border 1px solid black. And if there's other things I have to do there, I will do that. I already thought of one. Guess peg outer. If you're thinking, what's guess peg outer? Is there a guess peg inner? As a matter of fact, tab div guess peg inner. Because let's look at here. I have this inner circle and I have the outer circle. So let's talk about what the width is. The width is 1/6 of 100%, unless you want to put gaps in there. And if we do, that's great. the height is the same as the width, but I could also say the height is, well, if I wanted to go from here to here, I could say it's 100% because it's 100% of its container. But if its container doesn't have a fixed height, then it's 100, and so it's undefined, then it's 100% of something that's undefined. And sometimes you're really scratching your head trying to figure out why your height didn't show up. This inner circle, like if let's say I decide to make this 50%, the outer one 50%. So don't think, well, then this one's even less, because actually this inner one is relative to the outer one. I'm going to say that, but then I'm going to be scratching my head when it doesn't work later. What that was, it just dropped down as I hit Command S all the time to save, just without even thinking. And watch Command S, and it drops down that thing. This is a browser window. You don't save it. Okay. So what did I say I was going to do? I said I was going to. Well, first of all, we have to get this outer. I'm going to give it. I'm going to say box me, which gives it a border, and I just gave it a border. And then I'm going to say circle. So darn, that border I just gave it, don't need to do it. I forgot my semicolon anyway. And as we look at it, not that one, this one. It says loading. Remember, I mean, it's been a day and a half since I last did this, so I'm going to restart. I don't know what could have happened. Control C. Ding. What was it? ng serve. I'm going to restart this, and that should restart this. This right here. Where's my cough drop? I'm going to start coughing. I don't see it. Okay, 92. It always stops at 92. Compiled successfully, so that means this should be doing its thing, and it just says loading. A lot of times when it does that, it's because there's an error. So if I hit F12, no, wrong, Command Option I, oh, and here it says there's an error. It says, what the heck is this ng4 thing you're talking about? It's not a known property of div. Okay, so that happens a lot. ng4 Angular4 syntax. I'm sure I'll find it somewhere. This probably doesn't want that. I put an asterisk in front of it. Come on, dude. Shoot. Item in items, but it's in. Okay, that was enter repeat. Oh, I think it's the let that I missed. Let item of items. I forgot the let. It does have that little asterisk in front. All right. Well, first let's just go back to here, and it's in my HTML, and I need to say let color of colors. And if you think, what are you trying to say here? I'm going to get to that in a minute, but understanding this is a huge part of the things you do in Angular. So let's see if that, is it in or is it of? Back to you. Of. Dang it. Not in. Of. Wrong preposition. See how this went away? And here we go. And lo and behold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 circles. But we got this little gap right here. Again, that's a CSS thing, and that's something I should deal with. But I don't want to spend a lot of time dealing with CSS. But what about the colors? There isn't a color in this. Okay. To understand that, let color of colors, it's saying, because you notice, it was here 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I didn't tell it to do it 6 times. In my HTML, I didn't say make it 6 times. I just said make it once. And I put this thing inside of it, right there. But this div right here, we're not seeing this div at all right here yet, though, by the way, because I haven't given any meaning to this. Here, I'll give it some. box me circle. That turns into a circle, but it doesn't have any dimensions. I didn't give it a height yet, so you probably still won't see it. Maybe you'll see a line. But again, I didn't make this 6 times. So why did it do it 6 times? And why wasn't I surprised? Because when I said let color of colors, it's saying do it 1 time for each color in this array. Because I called this colors, it's saying I'm doing it once for this, and since these are called color, or this is a color of colors, those were words that I made. I could have said item of items. I could have said Jack of Jills, but I said color of colors because that makes sense. So when it did it once, not only is it I did it for this one, it's thinking about this. Let's just say that. In fact, I'll show what I mean by that, because what the heck does that mean? Let's right inside of here, under that div, I want to make it say color. But we did this in the last one. Dink, dink. See, it says red, blue, green, but that's not going to work. But you see, it says it. Well, easier than that. What if, and here's the secret sauce, here it comes. Remember, in the CSS, I'll show it to you. I made something called yellow, something called green, something called blue, something called red. And this array mimicked it. Damn it, where is it? Are you? Right here. These mimic those. So this, it's the name of a color, but it's also the name of a class that sets the background to purple. So if you see what I'm getting at, all I have to do is, in my classes, I'm going to say color. And that knows I'm talking about this. And if you don't believe me, it wouldn't be the first time I was wrong. Boom! Ooh yeah! That is awesome. But we want the inner circle, and how does this work? Let's see. That's not the one. This one. The whole thing, and as I hover over it, because this one is selected. So the outer circle doesn't have that color until I select it. Then I select it. Then I select it. Okay. All right. So we just made the outer circle have that. That isn't quite what we want. So let's give it to the inner circle instead. So that inner circle again, I'm just going to close this because I keep accidentally opening it. And I'm going to close this because I will accidentally open it eventually. I'm going to leave this open because I don't need that space. And if there's an error, I'd rather, the sooner I see it, the better. Okay. So we're going to give this also color. This one we are going to take the color away on. Okay. We didn't give this any height. So let's take this and make it mean something. First of all, I'll put a U there. Yes, peg enter. Command C. And I want to give it in this. Command V. We want to give it a width of. Remember again, even though this is 16% and this one is smaller, it has a bigger percentage because it's the percentage of the thing that it's inside of, and it's inside of this. So the height is also 80%. Volume here, I'm going to say margin 1 pixel. And that's it. Margin, no. 10% and auto. Let's see if that centers it. And box sizing, border box. Okay, so you see it has those inners, but didn't I give it the color? I like that the circles are there. That makes me happy. Let's go back here. Let's look at the HTML. I did this, but I didn't do this. All right. All right. Now, how do I want this to work? Well, first, when I hover over it, I think I want these to turn white. These outlines to turn white. Does that happen in this one? See, as I hover over it, I want those to turn white. That's simple enough. And that's CSS, but you know, okay, fine. I'm going to teach you some CSS. You probably already know this. Just have to figure out how to get to it. Command C, Command V, hover, and this one. Hover. These are pseudo classes. This is saying this class when I'm hovering over it, comma, which basically means and this class when I'm hovering over it. Then border 1px solid white. That means change the color when I hover. That's what I hope it means anyway. Let's see if that works. Reload it. Beautiful. And now, how do I make the rest of this fill in when I click this? I wish I knew how long this video was going because I don't want to get caught in something that takes longer than I think it's gonna. So, well, I'll start it and then I might stop it in the middle of this part. Okay. Let's go back to our HTML and we're going to give it a click event. So when I click, when I click the outer, so I could stick this anywhere, like this NG4 I could have put on the left side over here. In fact, I'm going to do it like this. If you've seen something like this, this is the old way to do it. This is Angular.js. The new way to do it is less intuitive. That means when I click it, do this function. And what's the function going to be? We're going to call it select color. So when I select that color, a few things need to happen, and some of them aren't as obvious as others, and that'll definitely come in when I do the services. And then we're going to fiddle with this a bit. I don't want to. I was going to pass it. You know what I'm going to pass it? Color. I don't think I have to put those when I pass this in, though. So for now, let's just make this. We're going to make a function here. What did I call it? Select color. Notice I didn't write the word function. If you're used to write function, this is TypeScript, but I'm not going to do any old JavaScript, or if I do, I forgot I said that. I'm going to use TypeScript and ECMAScript 16 or whatever it's called. Basically, I'm fat arrow functions is what I'm trying to say the hard way. This is getting past something. I'm just going to call it col here. I mean, calling it color here would make a lot of sense, but I just want to make it obvious to you that it doesn't have to be the word that I put here. This says color. It's passing me something, and this has to say color for me to pass this color. But this, whatever I call it here, is what it's called between here and here, the thing I called. So for right now, let's just print it out. What did I say? It refreshes automatically, so I click it, and it barfs at me basically. But that does show you that the click event did work. Let's just verify that. The click event works because it throws up class peg tray component inline Self-parent view container select color is not a function. Select color. See that? That's a typo. That's all it is. Here I called it select color, and here I call it select color. Oh, Command S. So I meant to, so refresh, and it says red when I click that. It says blue when I click that. It says green when I click that. So you saw that error. It was a whole lot of red. When you get those errors like that, and you will get them, it's not like pros don't get them, because well, I'm not a pro anyway, but I've seen pros, they get them too. But what pros do is they read them, and if it says there's 17 things wrong, you only care about the first thing. You only read the first thing. Deal with the first one. That's it. Okay. So what we really want to do is give this the class. We're going to give it the color. We want to give this the same color. So, oh my goodness. How are we going to target what we just clicked? This might be a good time for me to end it. So I'm clicking something. So this is what I would try. My instinct says try this. Okay, we know what it says this, but what if I say this? This means things. Let's see if it means what I want it to mean. Oh, I hit refresh. I didn't need to. Ooh, it gave me this. Well, to that peg trait, it didn't mean what I wanted it to. Because the click event is on the big circle, and if this had meant whatever the big circle is, this element, then I could have said, give this that background. But that's not going to work. Well, what if I said, wow, what did I just hit? Okay, well, I just unhit it. What was what? Now I forget what I was going to say. Remember, I said, what if I said, oh, on click, I could, oh, there's a lot I could do. Here's my worry isn't how to do this. I've done it before where I say, look at this cool way I did it. And then after I make the video, I realized, man, that was the long way. So let me talk about some other things, some other possibilities of how to implement this. This is going through an array. Where does it say? Where's that ng4? Let color of colors. Well, that thing I closed up here, I think I want, because if I do, there's a built-in thing here called the index. Let I equal index. And it knows that, okay, there's 0 through 5. You know how arrays count as 0. I think it defaults to the index. I might need to Google this. So let's say, let's just go like this. Let's see if it prints out 0 through 5 or if it barfs. That's what I wanted to see. Okay, so there's something I could do. I could, and if you're thinking, okay, you could do that, what am I thinking with that? I don't need to hit that refresh button, and I keep doing that. I could put a class here called, on the big div, I have classes. I have one called circle. And like right here, how I made a class called color. Well, here I want to make a class called outer peg, and not I put an equals there. I'm going to get rid of that. I. Okay, outer peg I, and I'm going to get rid of this where I was that. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to run it, and we're going to inspect it. I'm going to show you that there's 6 of those circles, but one of them has a class called outer peg 0, one of them has a class called outer peg 1, and so on. So Okay, I didn't need to refresh it. I did it again. So I'm going to right-click this and hit Inspect. And you see it has something called, okay, first I'm on the inner circle. I want to be in the outer peg 0. And see how this lights up when I go over it? Let's go over to this one, which is just going to be right here, right? Outer peg 1, outer peg 2, outer peg 3. Well, I'm going to do this. I'm just going to make this light up, and then we'll be done with this video. But from here, let's just think about it. I got it. I'm going to send it the color and the eye. All right. And I want to, in the this, when I do that, I don't need to say this at all. I'm going to say that element, dang it, let ID, okay, let ID equal, I'm going to use, this is a backtick. This is not a single quote or a double quote, it's a backtick. It shares the key with the tilde right under the, it's in the upper left hand corner right next to the escape button, the 1 button and the tab button. So before I go on, I didn't use those. I used a backtick. I'm like, well, why'd you use a backtick? Because backticks are something you could use for string catenation. So what did I call that? What did I call that that class? I called it outer peg I, like this. I'm going to copy Command C because I'm really lazy. Command V, and if I do a $sign squigglies and I'm putting in an I, and this red I here, it's taking the value that I'm passing it in. So I'm making an ID, which maybe I should call this an ID then. I'm calling it a class. Let's do this. Those are my classes. ID equals this. So this is an ID. Doesn't matter, I didn't need to do that, but I did. So let ID equals that, and then I'm going to do this. Let something called element, LM, which stands for element, is document dot get element by, usually it auto-completes and it's bothering me that it didn't. Document get element by ID, and the ID is ID. And just to see if that worked, we're going to log the element. I'm going to print out the element that I selected. And if it works, you'll see what I mean. If it doesn't work, well, figure that out. It's right now, if you think, where's it going to print it? You got to go to the console to print it. I don't got to hit refresh. So I'm going to click this, ding. And so I'm going to hover over this and watch down here what happens. Because I printed up the element. Okay, let's go back to the code. I might do this a different way in the next video because I just had a cooler way come to me that uses more Angular. I was going to use an ng class. Okay, get element by ID. So I have an element. Get element by ID. So I don't need this. I just needed that so I can print the element. Get on ID dot add class. See how that's How that red thing's there does not exist on type HTML element. Well, that is quite annoying. And I wanted to add a class called color or COL to this. It's red, so that's not going to work. So I'm going to say JavaScript add class, and I think it's class name. jQuery. We don't want jQuery. Add remove classes with raw JavaScript. Raw JavaScript. So it says document get element by ID dot class name equals b still. Okay. Back to here. Dot class name. I had double those anyways. Equals COL. So this COL, so the document, by saying the class name, I think I'm just adding a class, but we're going to check it, inspect it. Hopefully it'll work. Let's go over to here. So I think, see they're all stacking up right here? That is the funniest thing I ever saw. I think we took all the other classes out of there. Awesome. Truly awesome. That's not cool. Class list. Class list.add class name. Let's try that. I'm going to go Command C. I'm going to go over to here. Go over to here. Command V, and the class name is COL. So what does this change? There's a class list because I took out all the classes except for one is what I just did. So I'm going to add this class to the class list. Now, let's see what happens. It's loading. So when I click yellow, I'm predicting that the whole thing becomes yellow. Oh, good. But when I click it again, shouldn't it go back? And what if I, see now I'm turning them all. So are they selected? This blue is too close to that as an aside. All that and more in the next exciting adventure. But for now, I think that'll do. Thank you for watching.